Alright everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode. I'm making my way to Thika Town, the 8th largest urban center in Kenya. And that was a great song by a local artist. And for the friends who did not understand the local dialect, the guy was saying that the most readily available thing in Thika is love and alcohol. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the city of love and booze. And actually this is the entry point. As you can see, we are just leaving Thika Superhighway to get into Thika Town. And remember, the highway, which is actually the best in the region, is named after our town. Well, that is the picture of the old Thika Road around the 1900. That was during the colonial era. And this one here was taken around early 2000s. You can see the beautiful transformation. Well, the city of love and alcohol is in vicinity. That is Thika Town. And we want to explore it extensively. Of course, we want to see how is everything, its social life, how businesses are faring, and of course, how the town is designed. Remember, Thika is one of the oldest towns in the country. In fact, it was made a town in 1925 by the then government, the colonial government. And so we want to see whether it is stuck on its past or it is a modern town. I will also be giving you some interesting numbers about the town and why it is said to be the next city in the country. I will also be giving you the town's connection with one of the African greatest seer who goes by the name Mugumo wa Kibiro, and how one of his prophecies about the town made the then colonial government take some drastic measures to make sure the prophecy does not come to pass, as it involved the fall of the British Empire. Well, for information that is not a bedtime story by Mr. Lone Traveler, it's a documented history. In fact, if time allows, I will take you to the site where everything happened, which is currently under the National Museum of Kenya. In the meantime, I just left Garissa Road and I'm entering Thika Town. For now, we can say the town center. And the road that I just left, the Garissa Road, goes all the way to Garissa, and it can take you to towns like Mwingi, Kitui, and Mandera. Anyway, for now, let's explore Thika Town. But before then, let me take this opportunity to welcome you to our YouTube channel, Village to Town TV, a channel that is dedicated to continue showcasing beautiful villages, towns, and cities across the continent. I am overwhelmed by the love that you have continued to show us. In fact, subscribers are growing in crazy numbers. Shout out to all of you. And if you have not yet subscribed, kindly consider doing so. It's absolutely free, but it means the world to us. Also, you can check out our sister channel. It goes by the name Kikuyu Traveling Media. You can pass by there, show some love by subscribing, and we'll appreciate. Now back to the town of love and booze. Well, remember Thika Town is in Kiambu County, which is one of the 47th county in the country. But one thing you should note is that it is near the border of Kiambu County and Murang'a County. Actually, the two counties are separated by a nearby river that goes by the name River Chania. And so it is good to acknowledge that although the bigger part of Thika is in Kiambu County, some estates or satellite towns are actually in Murang'a County. Well, needless to say, Machakos County, which is actually one of the counties in Ukambani, is also around the corner, not very far from here. And that's why I'm told the town has a significant number of people from Ukambani, despite being in Kikuyu land. Anyway, I want to take a left turn to get into the town center, where everything started, as I'll be taking you to Thika Old Town in a few. In fact, if you have sharp eyes, you can notice a monument which is shaped as a pillar, and I'm told it was erected by the colonial government in the early 1900s. It is right here on my right, let me show you its old photo, which was taken in the 1920s. You can see some old-timers in the photo, in a suit. You can see another one, probably taken in the 70s or early 80s, where the monument is seen on the right. Well, that is the good old days. They say a picture can tell 1,000 words. I agree. It is such a beautiful piece of history to watch. History goes that the old pillar was erected by the colonial government to commemorate the founding of Thika as a town. And funny enough, more than 100 years later, Thika is still a town, as it has not yet evolved to a city. Well, as you can see, we are still cruising nicely in Thika Town. It is a beautiful day out here. Actually, it is on a Sunday. That's why the flow of people is not that big. Well, I can see a very old building on my right, probably built in 1930s and 40s. Check out this photo of the same house, which was probably taken in the 80s or 70s. Told you this is a historic town. And remember, Thika is an industrial town, very industrialized. In fact, at one point in time, it was the most industrialized town in the country. I don't know whether that changed. I have not heard of it. In fact, it went by the name the Birmingham City of Kenya. Apparently, I'm told that this is one of the most notorious streets as far as prostitution is concerned. And it happened even during the day. In fact, if you are keen enough, you can even spot some ladies of the night. They are out here selling love. And it seems like the number has reduced significantly. Actually, the last time I passed by here, it was around 2019. The number was so high. But maybe it's because it's on a Sunday. The ladies also take a day off. But I'm sure the numbers will increase during the night. Anyway, let me not dwell on that topic too much. I don't know what you think about that trade. In fact, they say it is the oldest trade in the world. Is it a moral issue, or is it as a result of economic hardship? And what do you think the society should do to address the issue? Should we arrest those engaging in the trade, both the proprietors and the buyers, which is actually the norm? Should we rehabilitate them and give them better economic opportunities? Yeah, write to us on the comment section below. Tell us what you think. Keep the conversation going, and we will appreciate. Well, it seems like on this section of the town, businesses are thriving, despite being on a Sunday. It is actually around 4 p.m., and we are having a good time right here in the city of love. And actually behind these fruit vendors is the bus station. The small space between the vendors will take you there. And so this is Thika downtown. Well, I've noted that the fruit vending business is doing quite well in this side of the town. You can take a quick look on my left. It seems like everyone is selling fruits. Well, one of the most significant historic sites here in Thika Town is the Mugumo Gardens. And it is named after a giant fig tree, which was the biggest in the country. Well, for the interest of history, Mugumo tree, or the fig tree, is a sacred tree among the Agikuyu people, who are the majority of people living around here. And history goes that the giant fig tree, which had a 15-foot diameter, you can do a quick math and see what kind of a tree that was. And this was around the 16th century, and an ancient legendary, or seer, who went by the name Mugo Akibiru, prophesied under this tree. The guy is quite popular among the Agikuyu people, and one of his prophecy was that one day there will come a race of people whose skin complexion would resemble a small pale-colored frog that lives in water. He also went ahead to say that one will be able to see their blood flowing under their skins, just like the frog. And to scare the people more, the seer said that these pale strangers would have clothing that resembles butterflies. that is, in their colorful aspects. So you can just imagine you being an African living in the dark era. You have never seen a white person or a yellow person for that case. And you have never imagined that there are butterfly-like clothes as you are used to wearing hides and skin. And just one morning this year tells you that these pale strangers will raid your country and they will carry magic sticks that will produce fire. Well, of course, not many believed him, but one day the British came with their colorful clothes and sticks producing fire, which were actually the guns. The seer had also prophesied the coming of an iron snake that would have many legs, like an earthworm, and would be traveling on a metallic line, and it will be swallowing people from one point and vomiting them at another. And this came to pass when the British completed the Kenya-Uganda Railway and introduced the first train in the country, which Mugo Kibiro had seen as a metallic snake, swallowing and vomiting people from one point to the other. Well, all these prophecies happened in this town, as the tree was around here. Well, history goes that when the British finally arrived here and they were told about the prophecies by the people living in the area, they were super excited to learn that someone who lived centuries before they came here foretold about their coming in the country and establishing their colonial government here. However, one thing got the Britons' attention and got them scared as hell. They learned that the seer had also prophesied that the fall of the fig tree right here in the town will symbolize the fall of the British rule in the country. Well, many years passed, and in the 1950s, the Mau Mau War broke out. The colonial government learned that the Mau Mau warriors were interested in cutting down the tree as they really believed on the prophecy. And to stop this, tight security was established around the tree, and the British government also reinforced the tree to prevent it from falling. You can see the metallic ring around the tree stump, that's what remained. And since the tree was growing old, the British feared that, despite the tight security, the tree will fall naturally. Well, the government fear was confirmed as the fig tree was stricken by lightning one morning and actually splitting into two. Well, one part fell in 1963, around May, and by June the country was given some independence. Actually, they were allowed to have the first black prime minister, and the second part fell in November 1963, and by December the country gained full independence from the British. Well, I know the story sounds crazy, but the first Kenyan government secured the land and made a park, just a small one, around the tree where people could enter by paying a small fee. And then the then first president of the republic, One Jomo Kenyatta, planted another fig tree right next to the one that had fallen. And I'm told that the new fig tree is still standing today. Well, I don't know what do you think about the whole story, about the prophecies, the falling of the fig tree, the coming of the whites, and the African tradition religion. I want you to write us a comment on the comment section down here. Tell us whether or not you believe on the story and whether or not I should take you down to the park, as covering that will need a video of its own. Well, that's nice. We are still cruising here in Thika Town. We have the war cemetery on my right. This is where the Briton soldiers who died during the First and Second World Wars are buried. Well, before then I did pass Thika Prison. I also passed the Level 5 hospital, which is actually the biggest hospital in Kiambu County. And before the cemetery, we just passed by the Thika Technical Institute, which is one of the oldest colleges in the country. So this road serves as the government institutions area. In fact, behind the clothes stalls on my right are various secondary and primary schools. But I want to show you one of the largest tertiary learning institutions here in the country, and that is the Mount Kenya University. Actually, it is on both sides of the road, and it is privately owned, and it is home to thousands of learners. Well, let me see whether I can give you a glimpse of the inside. Well, I'm back to the town center. I want to show you some of the major infrastructures right here in the town. Actually, Thika Stadium is right here in the town. I'll be showing you that in a few. There is also Thika Law Court. You'll be passing there. And I'll also be showing you some other few amenities before I give you the numbers, which I promise they are quite interesting. Well, right on my left, you can see the green wall. That is Thika Stadium. It is a modern one. Let me get a nice angle so that I can get the best shot. Although you can't see the inside due to the perimeter wall. Well, here is the entrance. You can see the writings are on the wall. That is Thika Stadium for you. And right opposite to the stadium, on my right, this is the entrance to Thika Law Court. Well, there is also another important social amenity right in front, and it is the Huduma Center for the entire Kiambu County. You can see that on my right. It is one-stop shop where you can get all government services. Whether you want to take your personal ID, register a company, or you just want to do a random thing like replacing your passport, that's the place to go. Well, let's just take a few rounds around the town, enjoy the evening here in Thika Town, and I'll be back with more data, especially on the population and the real estate. That is on some really nice information for people who want to settle in Thika in future. That is by investing in land. Either you want to buy a property, maybe a ready built one, or you want to rent a house, or even for those who want to start businesses here in Thika in future. Well, I just want to show you the oldest part of the town, where it all started. And I'm told that it was started by the Indians, who in fact came here before the whites. And funny enough, the old buildings are still standing tall. Just take a look at the buildings on my left, and you'll notice that most of them are quite old. Of course, there's nothing on my right. It is actually a public park. But if you are quite observant, you will notice that most buildings on my left are more than 50 years old. I have also noted that this part of the town is a bit cool. It is less chaotic. You can even see that some kids are having a good time. It is on a Sunday afternoon. There is also an Indian temple right in front. I hope you can see it, with a very beautiful gate. I don't know what color is this. Maybe it's orange. It is written Visa Oshwa Community, Thika. And you can see that it is right in the middle of the old town. And that tells you that the Indian community is not new here. Well, let's quickly check other numbers. And remember, I told you that Thika Town is the 8th biggest town in the country. That is in terms of the population. And in terms of the economic development, I'm not quite sure about that. But Thika is not poor either. Well, the town has a total population of 245,820 people. That is as of 2019. So probably 6 years down the line, the population has hit the 300,000 mark. That is according to the Kenyan Bureau of Statistics, which conducts a general census after every 10 years. And in terms of the population density, there are 2,689 people living in a square kilometer here in Thika Town, which is not that bad for a small town. Remember, I told you that a square kilometer is equal to 250 acres of land. You can do the maths and see how the numbers are doing. And in terms of the population change, the government estimates that Thika's population is growing at an annual population rate of 5.9%. That is per year, and that tells you that there is a very high number of people who are migrating to Thika, either to start life or to just establish themselves here. There is also a high birth rate among the dwellers. In fact, about 15 years ago, that is in 2010, the population was estimated at 138,772. And 10 years later, the population jumped to 245,000. You can see the gap. The growth rate is real. In terms of gender distribution, the population is not that bad as far as the gender gap is concerned. In fact, 50.9% of the total population are women, which is about 125,104, while the number of men is not that less. In fact, they are 49.1%, which is equals to 120,698. So that tells you that the gap between men and women, it is in favor of women, with about 5,000 more women, which is a normal distribution here in the country. In terms of the intersex, which are those people who identify with having both genders, they are only 18 in the town. Well, I'm back to Thika Superhighway. I'm sure you can see some cars passing by. And by now, I'm sure you have noted that the town is off the main road. It is actually between Garissa Road and Chania River, which I'm going to show you in a few seconds. And so the irony is, if you're passing by here, either from Murang'a to Nairobi, or you are either coming from the Nairobi side and you are going to Murang'a or toward Merus and Nyeri, and of course you are using Thika Road, you'll never notice that there is a town of such magnitude nearby. Well, I just want to show you something here next to the highway. Actually, there are two rivers that meet here. That is Thika River and Chania River. which further downstream drains to Athi River, which is, of course, not far from here. It is such a beautiful scene here, I tell you. Well, those cars are coming from Murang'a side and other towns beyond, such as Nyeri, Embu, Meru, Isiolo, counties like Tharaka Nithi, Kirinyaga, just name them. Remember, this road is the entry to the Mount Kenya region, which is the central part of the country. So there's one thing I want you to understand about Thika Town before I hit the small town of Makongeni, which is in vicinity. And probably this will help you understand our town of the day better. Foremost, Thika as a town is one of the most well-planned towns in the country. So what do I mean by that? It is well planned as a city of the future. It has a town center. It has an industrial park. It has slums, suburbs, rich neighborhoods. Just name them. So Makongeni town, which is right in front, is one of the suburbs of Thika town. Now history goes that the then town government of Thika, I think it was the city council or the town council, I don't know, before the whole management of the town was taken over by the county government of Kiambu. It had designated Makongeni as the official residential area for people working in Thika town and in Thika industrial area, which is right behind me. So to achieve this, they built a lot of residential houses in phases. I'm told they start from phase 1 all the way to phase 4. And that is in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We are going to see the houses, making Makongeni almost autonomous from Thika town. The town has also grown tremendously. There's a mall. You can see it on my left. It goes by the name Ananas Mall. Probably from the name Nanasi, which is the Swahili word for pineapples. Remember, Thika is home of pineapples. The biggest pineapples producer in East and Central Africa, Del Monte, is in town. Another thing you ought to understand about Makongeni before I show you around is the fact that the biggest fresh food market in Thika town is in Makongeni. There is also another thing. The official country bus station for Thika town is in Makongeni. So all that goes down to the planning I told you about. Thika is well planned from the onset. So as usual, I'm going to show you around. We are going to see how the people live here and how businesses are faring. I'm also going to give you the numbers and the statistics and also the ethnic composition of Makongeni, which I'm sure is going to surprise most of you. It is not what you think, trust me. But foremost, let me take this opportunity to welcome you to our YouTube channel, Village to Town TV, a channel that is dedicated to continue showcasing beautiful villages, towns, and cities across the continent of Africa. I go by the name Mr. Lone Traveler, a very lonely man who only finds solace in visiting new places. You never know how seeing new faces and new places excites me. And so I took it as my divine duty to show you around the country. All those villages and towns, we visit them all without discrimination. So for instance, whether a town is big or is just a village shopping center, that's none of our business. We don't care. We visit them all. So don't be surprised when you see us in your rural village. Remember, we say that every village has a story. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. It is absolutely free, but means the world to us. We also do private requests. Like for instance, you are an old timer like myself, and you miss to see the places and the streets you used to roam when young. Or you're Kenyan living abroad and you want to see your hometown or home village. Just talk to us via WhatsApp. The number is down there. So I'm getting into Makongeni town center. It is quite busy. The market is on my right, while the poster and the bus station is on my left. So Makongeni is only 4 kilometers from Thika town. I think the best thing will be to show you the map so that you can know where I'm at. That's the map of Makongeni and the surrounding towns. I'm sure you can see Makongeni Mosque. I'm around that place. You can see the blue star. You can also see Thika Town is not far from here. So Makongeni is along Garissa Road, the road that we came through, which is the road that goes all the way to Garissa Town, the former headquarters of Northeastern Province. So this is the route if you want to go to Northeastern. In fact, I'm told it is only 319 kilometers from here to Garissa. There are also some other towns along the way, such as Mwingi, Matu, and even Kitui, which is at the heart of Ukambani region. So Makongeni is at a very strategic position, and that has contributed to its growth and its ethnic composition, which we'll be analyzing later. You can see the town is quite busy. Almost every space is occupied, and businesses are doing quite well. You can tell by the high number of people in town. In terms of the numbers, these satellite towns have a total population of 86,581 people. That's a very high number. It is even higher than some constituencies in this country. In terms of the population density, Makongeni is quite dense. I'm sure you can see that, as there are 6,076 people living in a square kilometer. So the total Makongeni area is some 14.2 kilometers squared. A fact that tells you that this is a very small geographical area. Remember, a square kilometer is equal to 250 acres of land. And so you can imagine all these almost 90,000 people are crammed in a very small area. And of course, there are some consequences that comes with that. One, you expect to see a very high crime rate. And two, there is oversharing of the social amenities. So resources such as water, schools, electricity, the sewer system are overutilized. But on the other hand, the high population come with a lot of opportunities. Now it depends on how you see the picture. For instance, the real estate business is booming. There's a very high demand for residential houses, which is also the case with the commercial houses. Business is also booming. You know, a high population come with a ready market for any good or service. In terms of gender distribution, the town is well balanced, although there is a slight male majority, which is a bit unusual. Most towns have female majority. So in Makongeni, 50.5% are males, while 49.5% are females. About the intersex, their population in town is a bit low, and so a bit insignificant. So we're still having a good time in Makongeni town, near Thika. If I decide to go on my left, I'll be hitting another satellite town called Kiganjo. It's about 2 kilometers from here. In fact, it is in vicinity, but I chose left. And this particular area is called Kameno, also within Makongeni. We'll be going in the residential area in a few seconds. We want to see how the people live around here, the kind of houses, and the status of the infrastructures inside the estate. The town got its name from the sisal plant. Remember, the word Makongo is the Swahili word for sisos. So Makongeni means the place of sisos. So long time ago, the entire area, including Makongeni, Juja, Thika Town, some parts of Ruiru, all the way to Oldonyo Sabuk National Park, were part of Juja Farm. This was a 15,000 acres of land owned by one Macmillan, or Lord Macmillan. His official name was William Northrop Macmillan. He established the farm in 1905, and he used to plant sisos. That's the phrase Makongeni. Unlike other settlers in the colonial Kenya, well, Sir William Macmillan was a unique one. Foremost, he was a rich kid from the United States and not a British as most of you would expect. Remember, Kenya was a British colony. So the guy was born in St. Louis, Missouri. Shout out to all my people watching from the US, led by one Boniface. I see you. And his father, one William Macmillan, was the solo founder of Missouri Car and Foundry Company. His uncle, James Macmillan, also founded the Michigan Car Company. I want to paint you a picture of how this guy was a real rich kid. In fact, he hosted the then US President Theodore Roosevelt not once or twice, right here in Juja farm. In fact, one of the Roosevelt's books titled African Game Trails was written right here in Juja farm. So this was a historic place. A lot of great people, great men and women came from this area. For instance, the great Tom Mboya was born in this place. His father worked as a manager in the then Sisal Plantation, Juja farm. I'm sure you have noticed I'm getting inside the residential area. And so far so good. There's a lot of semi-permanent structures along the road. Remember, this was not part of the plan. The then town government has designated this as a residential area with some very nice houses for their time. So behind these structures, there are those houses. Although they have seen better days, I hope you can see some right in front. They have this unique design where they have a single entrance, common bathrooms and washing areas. And these kind of houses are all over Thika Town. We can say this was a result of visionary leadership. No one is building affordable houses for the commoners, despite the modern county government having more money than the then town's government. Although I'm told the national government is doing some buildings, they are doing some affordable housing projects, although very controversial. I don't want to go that route. You know, most Kenyans are so emotional when it comes to politics. So shout out to the then Thika Town Council for visionary leadership. I don't know most of the leaders, but let this lady represent you. She goes by the name Mombi Ngaru, and I'm told she was the first lady mayor in Thika Town. So let's quickly check out the real estate segment. And before giving you the prices, it is good to note that this is a mixed residential and commercial area. So I saw various pieces of land which was up for sale. And one was an acre, which was going for 28 million Kenya shillings. Another one, a quarter of an acre, was going for 8.5 million Kenya shillings. And another 7 acres, which was going for 25 million Kenya shillings per acre. And so with around 13.5 million Kenya shillings, you can get half an acre in this area. 100 by 100, which is a quarter of an acre, is going for between 6 million and 7 million Kenya shillings, depending on its location. While a 50 by 100, which is an eighth of an acre, is going for between 3 million and 4 million Kenya shillings. In terms of renting, for those who want to rent, remember most of people here are not homeowners, but they rent properties. So I saw a 1-bedroom going for 7,500 per month, and a 2-bedroom going for 15,000 Kenya shillings per month, and a 3-bedroom going for 25,000 Kenya shillings. So the ethnic distribution of people around this place is quite amazing, because I'm sure most of you will think that everyone here is a Kikuyu, but this is not the case. Of course, the majority here are Kikuyus, but there is also a lot of Somalis in high numbers, born and bred here. There is also a lot of Kambas in town, also in crazy numbers. Remember we said the estate is along the Garissa Road, which goes to Garissa and Ukambani. And that explains why there's a lot of Akambas and Somalis in the area. So this road goes all the way to Del Monte's headquarters. I told you they are the largest producers of pineapples in East and Central Africa. but I don't want to go all the way there, so I'll be turning around. Some of the other industries that are in Makongeni include the BAT, which is the British American Tobacco Company. I just passed it a few seconds ago, but I forgot to mention. There is also the Kevian Food Limited, which produces products such as Afia. Do they have any other products? I don't know, but Afia Juice is the main one. And a lot of other companies. If you were to list all the industries in Thika Town, trust me, we'll spend the entire day counting. Anyways, today I want to visit one of the biggest slums in the town. I'm told the town has 3 to 4 slums. The slum is also ranked the biggest outside Nairobi in the country. The slum goes by the name Kiandutu. It got its name from Jigas, so you know what to expect. We'll be hitting there in less than a minute. But don't be too quick to judge. This is not your ordinary slum. It has some of the biggest industries in the country. About 4 are inside. I'll be showing you later. And it is surrounded by more than 10 manufacturers. If I decide to turn left, I'll be hitting the town center in less than a minute. But I want to continue this way. This is Garissa Road, goes all the way to Garissa Town. Our destination is about 200 meters from here. Thika is one of the most well-planned towns in the country. It has a town center, slums, rich neighborhoods, and suburbs. I'm reminded I made a video on Thika Town a few months ago, and so you can go and check it up later. But in the meantime, let's meet in Kandutu slums in the next second. I'll be leaving the highway and I'll be turning right in a few seconds just to get into the slums. They are just next to the highway. And although the planners of these towns were the greatest because they planned this town as the city of the future, one blunder that I think they made is allocating Thika Cemetery next to the town center. The cemetery are just next to these slums. They were on my right as I was entering the town. And you know, as Africans, you have a lot of issues with the dead. We don't even like the topic. It's our thing. But apart from that, the town is doing quite well, and it will soon become a city. I'm sure in most Western countries, a town with more than 250,000 people is already a city. So far, so good. We are in the outskirts of Kiandutu slums. And this is the front line. Behind these shops, there are semi-permanent houses, most of which are residential, low-cost houses. And one thing I'm liking about this place is that business is doing quite well. All I can see along this street are businesses. We will also be diving right inside the slums to see how the people live. And I'll also be showing you the few industries that are in the slums. We will also be visiting the social amenities in the area, schools, hospitals, just name them. And so stay tuned until the end. And kindly make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Village to Town TV, a channel that is dedicated to continue showcasing beautiful villages, towns, and cities across the continent of Africa. Another thing I'm liking about these slums is that the social amenities are well improved. For instance, you can see this road, it is well done. Also, the town is well lit. Electricity is everywhere. Well, history goes that the slums were started as a residential area for the people who could not afford modern houses in Thika Town. Remember, the town was started as an industrial town, mostly by the whites and the Indians. They still control a huge part of these industries up to date. But that was not my point. It was just a digress. Remember, this is in the 1940s and 50s. And a lot of people, the black Africans, are coming from their villages. And they are landing in the new town to look for jobs. And these industries are providing a lot of opportunities to these Africans. But the salary is a bit low. since most of them are not educated. So they are seeking for opportunities for the unskilled. And since the new job cannot afford them a decent house in town, have a decent meal, and send some cash back home, and so they are forced to look for cheaper dwelling houses in town. And to bridge this gap, new slums emerged in the town, with Kiandutu being the biggest. There are others. I'll be taking you there some days. They include Athena, which is named after the Greek goddess Athena, which was associated with wisdom, strategic warfare, craft, and the city of Athens. I'm sure a good number of old-timers here are quite familiar with the Greek mythology. Other slums that emerged during this time include Gashagi and Kiangombe. I just went past the slums. I'll be getting there in a few seconds. I promised you I'll be getting inside and show you how the people lives down here. But I hope you can see some industries. They are right in front on my right. I told you Thika Town has a thing for industries. This one seems to be quite small, but they are a bit new. Only 2 go downs and big work starts. And this is one of the things that has made the town one of the biggest in the country and the richest. In fact, a few years ago, I'm sure most old-timers can recall this, Thika was referred to as the Kenyan Birmingham. You know, they used to liken Thika with the Birmingham city, which I'm told is the most industrious in the UK. By the way, shout out to Simon Wangoto and Steve Mutumbu in the UK, some of the biggest fans of Village to Town. And so you can imagine how big Thika was in terms of the industries. And this has also contributed to Kiambu County being one of the richest counties in the country, big time. You know, establishing industries is the way to go. They say if you want to grow an economy organically, just embrace manufacturing. I'm looking for a road that will take me to the center of the slums. We want to see the residential area. Remember, along the main road is mostly commercial. Another town in Kiambu County that is really giving Thika Town a run for its money as far as industrialization is concerned is Ruiru. I'm sure from the onset you can see this is a slum, with Mount Kilimambogo clearly visible in the background. You can see the type of houses, mostly are mabatis. And not the so nice mabatis. You know, there are some beautiful semi-permanent houses made of iron sheets out here. But this one looks a bit old. It is an informal settlement, so don't be quick to judge. In terms of security, of course, it is not the most secure place in the world. A few decades ago, especially in the 90s and 2000s, it used to be the worst. But probably things have changed of late. Maybe the locals and the people who are quite familiar with this area can tell us. Just feel free to write us on the comment section down below and we'll appreciate. I want to turn around and I can see another industry here on my right. This one is a milling company. I don't know the type of flours they are making. It is also right in the middle of the slums. There is also a mother here minding her own business. You know, such women embodies resilience, love and care. Shout out to all the mothers out there. I'm still doing my round inside the slums and I want to get to this healthcare facility. It is a government hospital, one of the few social amenities serving the community. We want to see the status of the infrastructures inside. And one thing I'm observing in this slum is that despite this being an informal settlement, the government is doing a lot to improve the lives here. I've noticed roads, hospitals, electricity. I've also noted there's a police station next to the hospital. And I'm not quite sure whether it is the national government, the county government, the constituency development fund, although I'm told it is part of the national government. Whether it is the previous government or the current government, the donor community, all we can say is that someone somewhere is doing a good job. or did a good job, because this is a work already done. And speaking of the donor community, it is quite huge here, all because of the industries. There's a lot of heavy investors in Thika. And most of these industrialists are philanthropists. Philanthropy, or sharing with the poor, is the hobby for most rich. I honestly don't know the connection between the wealthy and the philanthropy, but the culture is very rampant. And Kiandutu, being one of the biggest slums in a rich town, must be one of the biggest beneficiary of these programs. In fact, I'm told there's a high school next to the slums, which is built and maintained by one of the biggest industries in the country. The industry is also next to the slums. I'll be showing you the school. I don't know whether they still manage the school, but it is named after the factory. I'll be passing there in a few seconds. It is a high school. It seems like this is the town center for the slums. And you can see right in front, the place is quite busy. It is like the official Kiandutu shopping center. But I want to turn right. I want to show you some few social amenities, including the school I just promised. Like for instance, on my right is Kiandutu police station. And you all know the ripple effect of having a police station inside the slums. Right in front there is a primary school. Currently they are going by the name comprehensive schools. It is part of modernization, and this is because they have ECD, primary schools, and junior secondary schools right inside. Well, next to the comprehensive school, they have a high school, and it is going by the name Broadway's High School, Thika. You can see the blue fence on my right. That's the school. And this school is named after the Broadway's Bakery Limited, which is one of the biggest bread producer in the country. I'm sure you have seen their bread somewhere. Of course, that is if you are Kenyan. And the factory is just next to the school. And so we can say it is one of the factories in Kiandutu slums. Started in 1958 here in Thika Town. The bakery was designed to supply bread here in town, that is Thika Town. But currently I'm told it has a production capacity of producing 100,000 breads per day. Well, that's a big one. I'm also told that the company was started and is still managed by an Indian family. Well, I'm sure someday we'll have the courage of discussing the role of the Indians in the Kenyan economy, because it is a big one. I want to quickly check at the real estate segment as I leave town. And unfortunately, I could not find any property which was on sale. Probably this is because Kiandutu is an informal settlement. Maybe, and I'm saying maybe, the lands have no title deeds. But some few properties were up for rent. And what I learned is that with 4,000 Kenya shillings, you have a very decent house here. You can also rent a dwelling unit with 2,500 Kenya shillings. That is a month. And so probably this is the most affordable area in Thika Town. And speaking of plots, I'm reminded I'm disposing my 2 plots of lands. They are in Jos Kakamulu, measuring 50 by 100 each. They are next to each other, quite prime. And each is going for 750,000 only. So if you are interested, just contact me. Ready title deeds and no middlemen. We are still doing our rounds in Thika Town. We just left the slums, but we are still in the neighborhood. I want to turn left as I want to show you some more industries that are next to Kiandutu. So I'm sure you can see an industry on my right, and that is the Bidco Africa Limited. This is a big one, trust me. They produce a good percentage of all the known brands in the country. I'll share some of their pictures. You can tell me, maybe you know some. I want to quickly check out the numbers, and it is good to remember that this is Thika Town, with a total population of 245,820, and that is as of 2019. And of course, with an annual growth rate of 5.9%, I'm sure the population has already hit the 300,000 mark. The town's population density is 2,689 people living in a square kilometer, which is quite a number. And in terms of the gender distribution, 50.9% of the people living in town are females, while 49.1% are males. The number of the intersex living in town is a bit insignificant as far as the percentage are concerned, but there are only 18 in Thika Town. In terms of age distribution, out of the 250,000 people living in town, only 3,582 are aged 65 and above. That's quite a small number. It means that in terms of percentage, only 1.5% are aged 65 and above. Anyways, let me leave it at that. This is the Mount Kenya University, one of the biggest private institutions in the country. But also make sure you watch the scenic video until the end. And if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, kindly consider doing so. It is absolutely free, but means the world to us. Also like the video so that it can be recommended to as many people as possible, and smash the notification bell so that every time we post, you'll be among the first few people to be notified. Also, you can check out our sister channel, Kikuyu Traveling Media. Kindly subscribe and watch our regular content. Thank you.